Tyrese Haliburton has taken the reins of the Pacers offense, steering it towards possibly becoming the greatest in NBA history. After his debut as an All-Star last season, he upped his game across the board, with the quirky exception of steals. Despite narrowly missing the MVP title at the All-Star game, the experience was still a dream come true for Haliburton. Growing up in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, his only connection to Indiana was AAU basketball games in Fort Wayne. The idea of leading the Pacers, let alone being a face of the NBA, as suggested by legends like Shaquille O'Neal and Kevin Durant, seemed like a distant dream. But now, it's reality. Tyrese Haliburton's rookie year ended with him in third place for Rookie of the Year, overshadowed in Sacramento by the established De'Aaron Fox. However, a mid-season trade to Indiana in the 2021-22 season was the key to unleashing his full potential. It wasn't smooth sailing from the start. Haliburton and the Pacers faced a tough stretch, losing 10 straight games to close out the season. The following year showed improvement, with the team finishing 35-47 and Haliburton earning his first All-Star selection. This season, though, feels different. It feels special. With the expectations now sky high, Haliburton is faced with the challenge of guiding his team to the playoffs. Given his trajectory and the Pacers' current form, the playoffs are not just a possibility, but a realistic goal. As long as Haliburton remains healthy, particularly after managing a left hamstring strain, the sky's the limit. Charles Barkley's confidence in the Pacers not only making the playoffs but also securing a win or two in the postseason is a sentiment many now share, especially considering Indiana's triumph in the in-season tournament before Pascal Siakam's acquisition. His ability to elevate his game and those around him marks him as a player of exceptional quality and resilience. The Pacers, with Haliburton at the helm, are not just dreaming of playoff glory, they are on a determined march towards it, making every game, every possession, and every moment count. Haliburton, fresh off his All-Star breakout last season, has kicked things up a notch this year. At just 23, the Pacers guard is turning heads with some staggering stats. Over his last 15 games, Haliburton has dished out an average of 8.9 assists while scoring 24.7 points per game, making him one of the top scorers in the league. It's been a long time since the Pacers saw anyone lead the league in assists, way back to Don Boozy in 1976 and 77, the team's NBA debut season. Last year, Haliburton was hot on the heels of James Harden, finishing second in assists with a Pacers record-breaking average of 10.4. This year, he's on a track to smash his own record. Haliburton's start to the season is one for the history books. Only two players before him have managed to average at least 24 points and 12 assists in the first 10 games of a season. The legendary Oscar Robertson in his groundbreaking 1961-62 season and James Harden in 2016. Now, Haliburton's name is listed alongside these legends, highlighting his exceptional beginning to the campaign. Last season, Haliburton set a precedent as the first NBA player to average 20 points and 10 assists while also hitting more than 40% of his threes. This year, he's eyeing an even rarer accomplishment. With his current shooting percentages, he's flirting with joining the 50-40-90 club, a feat only achieved by the finest shooters like Larry Bird, Reggie Miller, Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Durant, and Steph Curry. Achieving 50% from the field, 40% from three, and 90% from the free throw line over a season is impressive enough, but combining that with averages of 20 points and 10 assists, that would be unprecedented. If Haliburton keeps this up, he won't just be the 10th player in the 50-40-90 club. He'll be the first ever to do it with such a robust scoring and assisting average. The closest comparison to Ty might be Steve Nash, who once neared these marks with a 50-40-90 split, 19 points, and about 12 assists, but even so, Haliburton is in a league of his own. What really sets Haliburton apart isn't just his scoring or shooting efficiency, it's his playmaking ability combined with an incredibly low rate of turnover. With a ratio of 5 assists to every turnover, he's not just leading the league in this statistic, he's redefining what's considered outstanding in terms of assist to turnover efficiency. This level of precision in creating opportunities for others while rarely giving up the ball is remarkable. Some might argue that a low turnover count could indicate a player is too cautious, avoiding the kind of bold passes that can open up a game. Taking risks, after all, is part of basketball, and avoiding them entirely could stifle a team's offense. However, from what we've seen watching Haliburton and the Pacers this year, and we've watched a lot, this doesn't seem to be the case with him. It's not that he's shying away from difficult passes. Rather, he consistently delivers precise passes that hit his teammates perfectly, suggesting that his low turnover rate isn't about playing it safe, but about his exceptional skill in playmaking. Even if he tends to be conservative in his risk-taking, it's hard to criticize his approach when you consider the results. He's the driving force behind the NBA's second-ranked offense. The Indiana Pacers have cleverly assembled a roster that not only complements Haliburton's exceptional playmaking, but also thrives on it. The team is loaded with shooters, adept cutters for backdoor plays, and strong options for pick-and-roll scenarios. Yet outside of Haliburton, the Pacers show a notable scarcity in shot creation. Haliburton's backup, Andrew Nembhard, stands out as a proficient passer, contributing to the team's playmaking depth. Benedict Mathurin and to a lesser extent Miles Turner offer some level of shot creation, but largely this roster is composed of players who excel in finishing plays rather than initiating them. Turner, as the team's second highest scorer, averages 17 points per game, followed by Mathurin with 13 points. Then there's a balanced scoring effort from Buddy Hield, Jalen Smith, Obi Toppin, Aaron Nesmith, and Bruce Brown, all chipping in with 10 to 11 points each. The balanced scoring distribution is quite extraordinary, with 8 of the 9 Pacers players who log at least 15 minutes per game averaging double figures in points. This level of contribution across the board is largely due to Haliburton's leadership and his role as the NBA's newest point guard, a term often associated with Chris Paul, one of the best to play the position. Now, the parallels between Haliburton in his 4th season at 23 years old and Chris Paul at the same point in his career are striking. Both have averaged similar points, 22 to 23, and assists around 11, with turnovers kept impressively low, 3 or less. Of course, when considering such comparisons, the difference in pace and style of play between their respective eras is crucial. The early 2000s saw a slower pace and a greater focus on defense, with less emphasis on three-point shooting compared to today's game. This context is essential when assessing their output and efficiency. To level the playing field between different periods, analyzing their statistics per 100 possessions helps. Here, both Haliburton and Paul's contributions balloon to about 32 to 33 points and about 16 assists, with turnovers slightly increasing to 3 to 4. This metric shows that adjusted for pace and minutes, their impact is remarkably similar. Shooting efficiency also offers a fascinating comparison. Chris Paul, in his era, was not the three-point shooter Haliburton is today, reflecting the broader strategic shift in the NBA towards valuing shots from beyond the arc. Haliburton's true shooting percentage this year stands at an impressive 65.5%, which is 8% above the league average. In contrast, Chris Paul's efficiency was also exceptional for his time, standing at 60%, which was significantly above the league average then. Both are sharpshooters, though their preferred spots on the court reflect the changing times of the NBA. Haliburton excels from three-point land, while Paul was a mid-range maestro. That's not to say Haliburton can't hit mid-range shots. He does, and quite well. It's just not with the frequency of Paul. And while Paul adjusted to the three-point game, he didn't lean into it as heavily as Haliburton does. Neither player is known for driving hard to the basket or drawing a lot of fouls, although Paul did peak in free throw attempts during his 4th season. What stands out about both players is their scoring philosophy. They take what defense gives them without aggressively seeking out their shots. They're capable of dropping 30 points on any given night, but their game isn't centered on scoring. As pass-first players, they excel in distributing the ball, and their assist-to-turnover ratios are off the charts. In this aspect, Paul sets the standard, and now Haliburton is following suit, showcasing a level of playmaking precision that's rare in the league. However, on the defensive end, Haliburton doesn't quite match up with Paul. CP3 was arguably the best defender under 6 feet, leading the league in steals multiple times and consistently making life difficult for opponents. Haliburton, despite his length, hasn't shown the same defensive skills. While he's competent most of the time, he doesn't have the steal numbers or the defensive impact that Paul had. Offensively, Haliburton is as close to replicating Chris Paul's impact as anyone we've seen, maybe ever. It's uncanny how their production and approach to the game mirror each other. Yet the defensive gap between them highlights that while Haliburton is on a path that could see him reach great heights, there are areas for him to grow to truly stand alongside a legend like Paul. Now, the point of making all these comparisons between Ty and CP3 is to prove that Haliburton is crucial for the Pacers, both as their standout player and the main driver of their offense. He's one of the few in the starting lineup who can make shots on his own, and he needs to tap into this ability more. His effectiveness hinges on his scoring. If he's not scoring, he can't set up his teammates as effectively. Defenses are getting up in his face, daring him to drive past them. Since his injury, he's been reluctant to take them up on the challenge. Haliburton's game thrives when he's scoring and dishing out assists, ideally hitting at least 20 points to complement 10 or more assists a game. He naturally prefers to pass first, but his ability to do so effectively depends on keeping defenses honest with his own scoring threat. To jumpstart Haliburton's game, the Pacers might need to shake things up a bit. More inverted pick and rolls with Siakam could open up the floor for him. And without Hield, running more stacks with Nesmith could be beneficial since he's now the top 3-point shooter on the squad. Some tactical adjustments could be just what Haliburton and the Pacers need to get back on track. But with the way Haliburton's been playing, he'll get there for sure.